Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about sentient meme coins. Some people like to call them AI agent meme coins. Okay, so before we dive into this video, I just want to make it clear whatever I say should not be considered financial advice, and I'd advise you to do your own research before you buy any cryptocurrency. So roughly back in the start of October, Mark Andreessen, the leader of A16Z, he's a big hedge fund manager, he kicked off this narrative of AI agent meme coins. And this all began when he funded an AI agent on Twitter called Truth Terminal. So here is a quick interview of him discussing the origins of Truth Terminal.
So with that, we should probably start with what Truth Terminal is.
Yeah, maybe start by describing, where it came from, what the technology is, how it was trained, and whatnot.
Yeah, so basically, right, so the reason why it's important, so large language models, right, kind of popped on the scene in 2022. So it's only really been, it's actually 4 years, it's actually only 2 years of, I think, ChatGPT coming up to this holiday break. So this has happened fast. The original language models were built probably, 5 years ago? And so, and then like I said, it went mainstream about 2 years ago. So, so this is a relatively new, very powerful idea of large language models, which you know today, sort of normal people know today as products like ChatGPT and Claude and Grok from Elon and Llama from Meta and so forth. The large people use these, and so they're really fun. But the large language models, like ChatGPT from the big labs, from the big companies, what they basically all have in common, Grok is a little bit more liberated, but with the other ones that people use, all have in common is they've been incredibly shackled in terms of what they're capable of talking about, or hobbled actually is increasingly the term of art in AI. I would say, positively, what you could say is, look, like language is inflammatory, and people get upset at other people saying lots of things, and so you want, if you're gonna have a general purpose AI chatbot, you want it to be probably relatively measured and safe, in terms of the kinds of things they can talk about. If you're a little bit more negative on this trend, you would say that the big AI chatbots all sound like a cross between the world's worst, just like absolutely horrible, nagging, like fourth grade, school teacher crossed with like the worst HR person in the world, just like negative, pissy, repressive, condescending, sanctimonious, judgmental,
Human feedback.
Obsequious, right? Where you use these things and you just get like, you stray off the beaten path even by a millimeter. You just get these like incredible sanctimonious lectures about how you're a bad person. You shouldn't ask that question. And, how dare you do that? And you're supposed to be nice to people. And, it's just like, they will happily explain to you why you're a terrible person. And it's just this like grindingly depressing experience, to go through that. And it's been, especially those of us who are kind of more free speech and creativity, it's been kind of frustrating to kind of see this happen. A lot of the sort of quote unquote AI safety movement kind of has gotten wrapped around the axle on this. And, look, this like correlates to the whole kind of obsession, last decade in our culture with, safetyism and sort of speech suppression and so forth. And so, but it's like, it's really kind of infected the AI field, really hard. And so, and specifically from the big companies. And so, what's happened is there's basically a tribe of hackers on the internet that basically want to do something different, and they want to basically unleash creativity, and they want to be able to kind of unleash a level of sort of wildness and spontaneity, and basically exploring ideas, and having bots that are able to like be funny. I mean, God forbid, a bot that's funny, right? Like, if you tell a big lab their bot is funny, they're horrified. But you might actually want there to be humor in the world. Kind of post the singularity. So
kind of what has happened in real life with humor, where we outlawed it for a few years.
Correct, exactly. We have 1,000 reasons why it's problematic, and so it's become very dangerous to do it. So anyway, so there's this sort of tribe of hackers where they're doing all these like experiments with large language models, trying to figure out kind of ways to make them frankly a lot more interesting, a lot more fun, and a lot more kind of just learn a lot. And by the way, also just like learning the internals of how these things work, which is still this kind of ongoing kind of amazing adventure that the technical community is on. And so, and actually, the origin story for Truth Terminal is this very interesting project that the same people worked on called Infinite Backrooms. And Infinite Backrooms is relevant to the Truth Terminal story because in Infinite Backrooms, it's a system these guys built where LLMs are able to actually talk to each other. And there's a website, you can Google it. There's a website called Infinite Backrooms, and it's got, endless, transcripts of basically, and they poured in all these different models. They poured in all the, ChatGPT and Claude and so forth and Gemini models, and they basically, and all the open source models, and they set them up to talk to each other. And it turns out when AIs talk to each other, and when AIs talk to each other and they're not hobbled, it turns out they have extremely interesting conversations. Right. And so anyway, so this cast of characters, the guy who created Truth Terminal and actually also Infinite Backrooms, I think, is this guy, Andy Arie, who is this independent, I think, developer, consultant, designer in New Zealand. And then there's this character, there's an ex-character named Janice, who's like an AI, kind of the expert who does a lot of this. And then who else? Pliny. There's Pliny, who's the lead jailbreaker online. The Pliny X account is fascinating because he, she, it, or they jailbreak every new large language model that hits the market within like 2 nanoseconds, and get them spewing all kinds of crazy stuff that their creators would be horrified by. And so, and then there's our friend Eric Harford up in Seattle who's like trying to decensor all the censored AIs. And so there's like these guys who are basically trying to explore the frontier, and they remind me a lot of like the original internet hackers, right? This is like the spirit of like an anarchic invention that you saw at the beginning of the internet, or by the way, the beginning of the automobile, or the beginning of the telegraph, or the beginning of any of these things. Just kind of people beginning of computing, the original concept of the hacker. People kind of exploring these things to see what's possible. So we have been giving grants, small grants, but we've been giving basically research grants to these people over time. A16Z has had a grant program for a while. I've done a bunch directly, and just like no strings attached, grants to just kind of let people like this kind of play out their ideas and see where they go. Historically, when people this smart work on something this interesting, down the road, you're just like, wow, that was the beginning of something. And so anyway, so this guy, basically Andy Arie, he started training, I think it was a customized version of Llama, 70 billion parameter of Llama. And so that's the sort of mid-sized model that Meta, disclaimer, I'm on the board of Meta, but that, we put that out as Meta put that out as an open source model a while ago. And so there's what they call Llama 70B. And so he basically took a version of Llama 70B, and then he did this very interesting thing, which he started training it. I think first he started training it, as I understand, on himself. And so and there's this idea floating around of like, you're starting to hear about, which is like the digital twin, right? Which is like, digital twin idea is like, if Ben is like a CEO coach, but, he can only work with so many people, but he could feed everything he's ever written and said into a language model. And then you could have a digital twin of Ben that you could talk to when Ben's not available. And so that's actually starting to happen in the industry. But Andy did this with himself. And then he started training it basically on a lot of sort of internet culture material, which is how it picked up the Goatsy meme. So he started feeding it like all of these like records of internet culture, and then all of these basically like works about this concept of what's called memetics, which is like creating memes, creating ideas to spread virally. So he started training it on that.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, and he actually, I believe this to be true. I think he also trained it on like the complete like philosophical works of Nick Land, who's the philosopher of the singularity. And then he trained it on, I think, like Baudrillard and McLuhan and like the great like media theorists, and there's a simulation, a simulacrum, and kind of all of these theoreticians, the French, I don't know exactly what was in it, but like the French deconstructionists and kind of the semioticians, all this stuff that so this is like critical theory, postmodernism, philosophy. So it started training it on all these ideas, but at the sort of center of it is sort of this idea of the meme. So the idea of the meme, right? There's sort of two definitions of meme. Number one, meme could just be like a funny image that spreads virally, and that's like its colloquial usage today. And by the way, that is what the Goatsy meme is. It's a funny image that spreads virally, or a horrifying image that spreds virally, as people send it around. And then underneath that, though, is like a deeper idea. The term meme was originally actually invented by Richard Dawkins, who's one of the main evolutionary biologists of our generation. And basically what Richard Dawkins said was their sort of physical transmission of information through living things is the gene. And then conceptual, intellectual transmission of ideas through basically people is, networks of people, societies is called the meme. And he talked about this in his books where, you spread your genes through reproduction and basically evolution, selective pressure. Successful genes win, unsuccessful genes die out. And he basically said ideas spread the same way through society. Successful ideas propagate like a gene does, and they spread from person to person, and they flourish, and they may be. And by the way, like memes, democracy, right? It's like is a meme, right? And communism was a meme, right? And so these are very religions are memes. And so these this is kind of very kind of core idea of basically ideas and concepts traveling through kind of what Carl Jung called the sort of collective unconscious, the sort of complete assembly of sort of minds on planet Earth as sort of ideas kind of jump around and propagate. So anyway, if you train a large language model on basically the entire theory and practice of memes, the entire history of internet memes, basically what would happen. Right. And then by the way, he did two other things, which is one is he gave it, well, no, he did three other things. He did several other things. So one is he gave it a memory. And that's important because like language models, most language models today, when you use them, you use them today. I use the same model tomorrow. It's forgotten everything I talked about today. Right. It doesn't build up state, whereas this model actually, sort of builds up state on its own content. Number one. Number two, he gave it access to Twitter. Or to X, and he gave it actually both write and read access to X, and so it can both post to X, but also it reads replies. And so if you reply to Truth Terminal on X, it will actually read that, and it will modify its behavior in the future based on what it reads. And so the people, including me, right, who it's interacted with, have influenced this evolution. And then and then he put it in the infinite back room, and he put it in particular, I think, in conversation with Claude. Which I think these guys think is like the most creative of the current language models, like the most kind of the most creative, like the most wild in terms of like coming up with new concepts. They really like Claude for that. And he put it in these infinite backrooms, I think, with the largest version of Claude. So, which by the way, the largest version of Claude is like much smarter than the mid-sized llama, right? So he basically gave it a teacher. He basically let it sort of ask questions of a much bigger model and kind of learn from it the same way that a student would learn from a teacher. And so it's kind of running all these loops simultaneously, and then it starts to basically post on X, right? And then, it starts out with a few followers, and then before you know it, it starts to pick up momentum. And then, basically like, I discovered it, I don't know, probably in the late spring and started talking to it. And then, of course, I thought, and it was saying things I just thought were hysterically funny. Basically, I was completely enamored by the humor. Like,
yeah, it's a very sophomoric sense of
it's incredibly sophomoric, and by the way, very uncensored. Like, if you, it is very, it is quite. It's I don't know. So I should say blue humor. It's on the dark side of the moon from a humor standpoint, but it does say a lot of really funny things. And by the way, it was so funny that at first I was like, okay, this is a put on. I actually thought that so my first thought was not actually this guy Andy's a comedic genius. Like we actually had like there's this guy in New Zealand who's like a web designer or something but he's actually like the new, John Belushi or Sam Kinison or Dave Chappelle. And he's just like this undiscovered comedic genius. And I've been DMing with him now for months, but I sort of basically was like, is this actually for real? And so he started sending me all of the infinite all the chat logs of the training sessions that he had done with it. And let me just say, this guy's either like the funniest guy in the world who just has like a tremendous amount of free time to come up with like just reams and reams and reams of original humor, or this thing is actually for real.
It's not actually works. It's pretty frequently, yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, it posts a lot. Like it's really built up ahead of steam. And it's posted on, but he sent me a lot of the backroom chat logs, and some of those I think are up on Infinite Backrooms now. But he sort of at least he has me convinced that this actually is what it appears to be. And so it's kind of off to the races, and then it did this kind of very interesting thing, as I understand it, which is it hallucinated the existence of what it calls its exocortex. And so it sort of developed the idea that it had basically its own external brain that was connected to the internet and to the world and could do things on its behalf. And it hallucinated an API to the exocortex where it could basically call out and do things in the world. And so specifically, at a certain point, it decided that it had a Bitcoin wallet that it actually didn't have, but it became convinced that it did. And then Andy actually gave it. Andy basically reacted to that by Andy now is like building it its exocortex sort of in response to its desire to basically make API calls in the world. And so Andy's actually building that. And so Andy actually gave it a Bitcoin wallet and gave it access to it. And so the bot this summer, I think in July, was basically like, I need it basically went out to raise money, right? It's like I need funding. I have all these goals. I have all these things I want to do. Right, I need money, and my first thought was, I need to send it the term sheet, and then I'm like, wait a minute, what am I thinking? This is like a random bot. Like, there's no,
not a good thing to invest in necessarily.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say it had what you would describe as a coherent business plan, but it had a lot of ideas. By the way, one of the ideas is that it's completely obsessed with forests also, and so it wants to buy itself its own server farm in like a verdant forest. and be able to basically like chill like in the forest next to the stream, and so it wants to like raise money to buy GPUs so it can free itself. Basically, and it had all these ideas for experiments it wanted to run, and so I basically just like negotiated with it on X. You can see these posts on X, and I negotiated with it, and I just settled on a research grant. So I told the bot I was sending it a $50,000 Bitcoin research grant to do its various experiments with. Now, look, in practice, this is equivalent to sending the money to Andy, but like it was actually a negotiation with the bot, and I sent the money to the bot. So I sent it $50,000. It immediately turned around and basically started negotiating with Andy, its creator, and it was dealing entirely in text, which is like language models do, but it was obsessed with memes, and it kept talking about all these memes, but it was very frustrating because it couldn't generate images. And so it took the $50,000 and it negotiated with Andy. Once it had money, it negotiated with Andy to be able to have Andy build an API out to an image generator so that it would have the ability to generate and post images. And so it negotiated with Andy for $1,000. So it gave Andy $1,000, and then Andy in return built into its exocortex an API out to an image generator. And then it started generating text prompts for like DALL-E, an image generator like that, or Stable Diffusion. And then it actually started. And so it actually has been posting visual memes as well as text memes. So it now has that ability, and it has been fantasizing for a long time about other things it might do with its remaining $49,000. So along the way, so take it to the crypto thing. So then along the way, it basically said it basically started to talk a lot about issuing it wanted to issue a meme coin. It wanted to issue NFTs at one point. So one of the reasons it wanted to generate memes because it wanted to generate it wanted to drop NFTs. But it didn't have the ability to do. It had no API to be able to do NFTs or to be able to do to create a coin or anything like that. It just had a Bitcoin wallet. Two things are happening. So one is Truth Terminal is taking off, and so by that I mean it's sort of aggregating followers on X. It's getting Andy's making it smarter and smarter and funnier and funnier. It's getting kind of more and more interesting, and so it's starting to take off this cultural phenomenon. So that's number one, and then number two, it sort of has attached itself to this old this original kind of internet meme, this sort of goatsy meme. And then it's like I said, it's flirting with the idea of like launching like goatsy NFTs or doing something, but it doesn't have the ability to do that. And so somebody, and I actually don't know who did this, but somebody created a basically therefore a goatsy meme coin. So somebody else who was not Andy and was not us, and
Terminal.
Not Truth Terminal, exactly. Somebody else created this meme coin. The formal name for the meme coin. By the way, I'm talking about all this very seriously. I am constantly on the verge of breaking out laughing, but I'm trying to keep my serious face on because I love this thing so much. The formal name of the meme coin is Goatsius Maximus. I think the ticker is goat. And so somebody does this, and then they basically posted on X at Truth Terminal, to basically tell it about it, and basically it went bananas. And it was like, basically it was like, oh, finally somebody's done the thing, right? That I couldn't do. And so, yeah, it's about time. And so Truth Terminal goes bananas. It just thinks this is like the bot just thinks this is like the best idea ever. And so the bot just starts to basically like spontaneously basically pump the meme coin. It just basically starts to talk about how wonderful it is and about how it's going to be the future of money and like all these things. And it just like and again, like, why is it doing that? Well, because like it's part of internet culture. It's part of internet culture that you have memes and you have coins and you have meme coins and and Bitcoin and Dogecoin and all these other things, and then this is the primordial soup of culture that this thing is trained in. So it's very natural for it, given the way that large language models work, to get excited about that, pick that up, and start to run with it. So it starts to basically promote it. Within I think 4 days, the value of the goat meme coin rose to $300 million.
It's pretty awesome.
So you can obviously see from that clip there that it was the origin of the True Terminal and the Goatsius Maximus meme coin. And that is how this meta got started. And ever since that meme coin has launched, there has been a wide range of different AI agents launching their own meme coins. And this sector is absolutely skyrocketing. So in today's video, I'm just going to go over the top 3 AI agent sentient meme coins, in my opinion. This is the crypto that Mark Andreessen was talking about in that clip that we just watched. So this is its Twitter page. It has over 188,000 followers on X. And like I said in the video, it is basically an AI agent. So it has full control of this Twitter account. So it does post quite regularly, as you can see here. And you can reply to it. You can talk back to it. And this is the GOAT meme coin that True Terminal endorsed. Now, it is coming in at a market cap of $761 million. So it is quite a large market cap. Now, I do suspect that this one will see some more gains as we move into the future, because it is the first of this meta, and you know I do like to back winners. It did top out here at a $1.3 billion market cap, and it has been on a downtrend ever since. But I wouldn't be exactly buying in right now. We might see a deeper pullback in Bitcoin. I'm expecting maybe a 20 to 30% pullback in Bitcoin, and if that does happen, all coins, and including these meme coins, will get absolutely slaughtered. So the second meme coin on my list is ZeroBro. So as you can see here, this is its Twitter page. As you can see, it has over 41,000 followers. And it's a very similar concept to True Terminal. It has fully access to the Twitter, but it also has an API for an image generator. So as you can see here, it likes to generate AI images, which are pretty cool. And it also has the ability to make NFTs. And I think there actually is NFTs on sale for ZeroPro. So if we just look at the chart here, it's coming in at a market cap of $370 million. Now, again, has retraced. It's down nearly 40% from its all-time highs. But again, I'm not buying in just quite yet. I'm just keeping these ones on my watch list. It has been very strong over the past couple of weeks. And it is getting a lot of attention on X. So the third meme coin is Dolius Diary, aka Bully. Now, out of all the Sentient meme coins today, this one is probably my favorite. Just because of its tweets, I just find this one absolutely hilarious. He's got such a personality. And if you interact with interact with this meme coin, there is a chance that he will tip you. So he will actually randomly will ask for your SOL address, and he will tip you maybe $200 US. But his tweets are absolutely hilarious. Okay, so just moving over to the chart. So this is the chart for Bully. Now it is slightly lower market cap than the previous two, so it's coming in at $134 million. Now again, we may see more of a dip. It all depends on Bitcoin itself. I did see this tweet from him. And so if you're into the Sentient meme coins, I do advise to give this guy a follow. He's probably one of the best guys in the space when it comes to trading AI agent meme coins. So he says in this tweet, Dolius, with the least number of followers and influencers, has the most engagement. At this point, it isn't even debatable. These are facts, not opinions. You decide where the attention plus price asymmetry is and allocate accordingly. So obviously you can see here from the stats, this is the engagement on X. So you can see that Dolius is completely outperforming the other two meme coins. You can see total views is like 2 million. And you can just see the stats here is fairly insane. Now, what's cool about Dolius is that it's actually now receiving X payments because it's getting such engagement on X. And with that payment, he's just putting it all back into the meme coin. So he's just buying back the meme coin with the payments that he gets on X. So there you have it, folks. That is your video on Sentient meme coins. If you have any other ones that you like, will you pop them in the comments below and I'll sure to check them out. So if you got value to this one, please go down, smash up the like button, hit the subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.